a session configured, you can select that session and it will automatically select one session. To look of discovered buildings, you can see that some are already provisioned, but they are red. And that's because it hasn't been, it will go into the details of each building every 15 minutes, as explained earlier about the partition size. So it will take up to 15 minutes before this list can potentially, all the entries can be green. But you can force this to be a bit quicker, because if you know that one building is actually green and you need to check it up, go to settings and then it will force that one, and you can see when you go to status now it will be green. But after 15 minutes they all that can be green in the green, they are in the green. This is what I meant with when you have in the session config with that you have a force recap on startup. It will make sure that everything is recapped, and thus all that can be green are green. But it's more an UI issue, and you shouldn't put your server on such high constraints, because this will be done even if Cblocal is delayed when startup, but it will when your server is rebooting, for example, it will start up early enough to hammer your server really hard. Oh, you can see now it would automatically discover that one as well. And for example, this one, it has lots of constraints. So we have optional and mandatory constraints. You can see that the optional ones are in green, and mandatory are black or red. Usually you don't participate too much in Cblocal. Usually you participate rather much in your system, and that's the whole idea. So you can even disable the web UI, but it's good to have that if you're unsure, because it will aid you what it needs and how to do it, and especially in the beginning, then you probably want to use it. So let's say we delete all the stuff under Timothy 44 here, for example. You can see that it needs, now it's from scratch. It needs a service, so we need to provide a service. We don't do any under folders here, we just create the stuff directly. To be a bit more quick, create a string value called service. If you have pointed out on your servers directly, you need to have this on your controller directly, or you can use virtual variables in COS if you need to. But now we're creating shortcuts instead. So let's say we have DHC and sensitive. So what we're not mounting indoor sensor locally on this particular site. They have sensitive, so we can bring in the indoor temperature climate into CEO's cloud directly, and we can even export it back to this system if you need that. So if we set that one, then it will take, depending on your system, if it's really hogged, this can take up to a minute before the system will even respond properly. It might even time out. It depends how you stressed your system. Otherwise it takes up to 10 seconds. You can see now we have a service, and then we don't need to mount indoor temperatures, but we have the ability to mount the sensors that are getting exported towards this system. Okay, so we need to have the default. The algorithm needs for evaluation the heat meter on the primary side, and then it needs secondary side the temperatures and return and so on, and then it needs configurations to for the algorithm itself. For example, ITT, the target indoor temperature. Let's say you want to have 21 degrees inside. You place that, so it will be a configuration part. And since we're using sensitive, it needs to have a credential pointer. So you need to set up, allow Crossbreed Energy OS delegate the access to your sensitive integration, and then it will pick up those sensors. We can import all the sensors for this particular location, Timotei 44, and also start to get the data. When we do that, we can mirror the data back if you want to. So there's lots of stuff that you can do here. So when you have configured it, the best thing is to create a standardized settings. Copy that. And paste it somewhere. And this particular system. And say we need to check what type of system it is. So which control principle it follows. Okay, so it's ACT ODT and ODT. So this would be an offset then. So what we can do now is that we are deleting those. And then we just copy. Oh yeah, I forgot. We need to do one thing before, because it will provision directly when everything is set. You should not have the address set by default, so clean that up. And you should not have the service set, or maybe you should. It depends. But let's say to be a bit more generic, you can save this one. And then you should never set this one, because you don't know that it might be different. This would be the power that the central can the heater can actually produce momentarily. But the rest, maybe you have a balanced temperature, the target, and all this configuration, and you want to import data. In this case, we would actually so this states that it wants CEOs to mirror data from from COS. And here we have this offset that gets written towards your controller or your location to actually do some saving. So we have this generic offset now. So what we can do now is to copy this and paste it inside here. And then we can go into, you can see that we don't have set the service. We need to set the service and the address. So let's do that. And we need to set the ESL as well. Let's say it's a small one. Save. Oh yeah, and it will show you what the legal, what type it expects. Both the ordinal, the quantity, and this, it's only allowed to have DHC, DHC guard, DHC sensitive. Nothing else is allowed. So let's set the service to sensitive, because it makes most sense for this service. Sensitive. Okay. And now it will update, and you can see that we also want actually see how much the service is saving for us. So let's add ESHG and ESHL. And those will come from COS. You don't need to do all these maps if you don't want. You can have everything in a single one. It's actually more performant that way, but it's easier to administer when you have. So it's an analog value, ESHG. And now we can check that ESHD is crossed out. And it's another Oh, and that now it's good to check ESHL. So energy savings for local effect savings then. Okay, so and it will disappear. So we have one more mandatory before it will become provisioned, and that would be the address, because it's empty. So put the address, let's say Västanväg 52C. And the last one needs to be, the country needs to be in English. Save it. And now it's provisioned. It's possible to re-provision it by purge the local configuration, and that if something is wrong, take care, because if you do it too often, you will be subject to throttling, and that's a caution protection for you. You can also we talked about data points that we can do override on certain data points. For example, when you want to do a discovery inside the servers directly and do not have enter data points here, and then you bind it to your controller. For example, you probably would use this variable, and this is bound to your controller. You do the actual binding, but maybe you want to do a discovery directly here. It's less efficient because it will be doing a discovery on all your controllers, but yeah, it's up to you. Then you might need, for example, you don't have this service variable, then you can actually create a variable called service, that is virtual one, to mount on this system. But I will go through those later on. But here you will see the same view as you do on your system, remote system. It's however, it's system independent. Independent what system you have, you will see all the data, and you can do all this, and you can even go wherever you like in the system to make sure that you can see everything. So, but now we have 3 green ones, and after a while it starts to it will onboard the algorithm automatically. It can take a few hours. It will do discovery of your sensors, and then it will that's the sensitive sensors, and then it will start fetching data, and it will update. I can show these ones. It will update those from COS as well, so you can render those if you need to have those on your system. So depending on what data you want, you can specify that. Yeah, that's it.